The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in horror franchises. And today we are discussing Hellraiser Judgment from 2018. So John, put your bare hands in a big tub of vomit like those ladies in that house. And that is all us discussing these last few Hellraiser movies, particularly this one.
Getting into the slop.
We are slop heavy on this movie. Behind the scenes slop, on screen slop. Makes for a marginally better watchable movie than the previous one, but still in that realm for me personally of I'd rather talk about the things that happened to get us there than the actual movie.
Yeah, I mean the movie itself isn't bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. It's as much as it is extremely hampered by its budget.
Oh yeah.
Again, every dollar is on the screen, and that is not necessarily high praise. Like they had just a little bit more money. Gary Tunnicliffe, the patron saint of Hellraiser, coming back again. Yeah. This time writing and directing. And I like there's several interviews with him out there. There's an extended series of extended ones on YouTube on the it's called Midnight Edge, their channel. He's very upfront and very matter of fact about his experience on this, and it's a fascinating listen. Because he's really like, I was kind of an idiot to take this on after they screwed me, but I'm like, I'm a Hellraiser fan. I get to make a Hellraiser movie. What's the problem? You know? Yeah,
and I don't have a problem with that kind of idea because they're going to do it, and obviously the pain and masochism is there for the taking. Should he want it, which he certainly did.
He lapped it up. Like he was the assessor.
Right. But yeah, it is kind of interesting just from the outset, leaving Revelations behind and going to this one. I think the budget difference was only about $50,000. I was
not much,
$350 to $400 or $300 to $400 or something like that. And I will give this movie a lot of credit for having the money is more on the screen than this one than the previous one.
Absolutely.
This one looks like this movie looks like it's more of like a $800,000 budget. I think because Tunnicliffe was in charge, the production value is doubled based on what he was able to get. Yeah,
there's a little bit more artistic styling in this one. Like the whole layer of the Stygian Inquisition is a lot fancier, and him doing the makeup and all that kind of helps a lot as well.
Yeah, he said that he put both his writer's fee and his director's fee just back into the makeup department.
Yeah.
Calling yourself a martyr right there, obviously.
Yeah, which is funny because part of the deal was this had been a long time coming. There had been some stops and starts of various Hellraiser projects, including a remake, proposed remake by the guy who did Martyrs, the sort of a French new... What is it? I can never.
New Extremity.
French New Extremity. I can never remember that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
French New Extremity, but that went sideways. Tunnicliffe himself, he wrote this treatment basically, and no one was interested. Everyone was like, this is disgusting. But a friend was like, hey, why don't you do this, but take Hellraiser out of it? Because part of the reason no one wanted to touch it was no one wants to make another Hellraiser movie. So he did. And then he started to do a Kickstarter thing about it and was like, this feels bad doing this. So he stopped,
Gary.
He's like, yeah, just like that begging for money kind of feels gross. He's like, so I took that down. He's like, I don't use social media, so I hate all that stuff and I want to do that. So it kind of just spiraled away. And then eventually it kind of came around, and he wrote another one he really liked. It was very similar to part 2 in that it was about people at an insane asylum being used to try to open the box. But it was like the hot young doctors at the insane asylum hired by the main guy, kind of getting involved in almost sort of a Stanford experiment kind of way where they start becoming Cenobites in their own way. He was like, I really want to make this. He got some executive calls. Like, I really want to make this. And they're like, I don't know. What about Judgment? It's like, I don't know. With this one though, it's like, how about that? How about this? You send me a script for Judgment, write up Judgment. And I think it was like, if we don't like it, we'll make yours, but you don't get paid for it.
Right. Something like that.
Yeah. So he gave them this one and they liked it enough, eventually tons and tons of changes being made because that's the way it happens, but hopped in the director's chair.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to film, and I don't blame them, and we'll get into it, but the first 12 minutes of this movie, everybody was completely turned off by that. I do admire his stick-to-itiveness of just saying I want to do this so bad, and you're only giving me $350,000. It's not that big of a swing for y'all.
Yeah.
Like, just like, it's not like I'm trying to put this in a $20 million Brad Pitt picture.
Right.
Or, you know, something like that. Like, this is a low bar to clear. So let me go, like, just go for it. And so Brad Pitt doesn't make $20 million movies. So,
yeah.
well, maybe.
I mean,
know.
like, his hairdresser makes that much.
Yeah. But the grossness that we got was even cut down in the script situation, which I am perfectly fine with. But yeah, he went through a lot of back and forth, and they finally said yes, and he jumped at the chance, and then he was just like, wait a minute, this is really a dumb idea, but I'm going to do it, you know, and how exciting. Then, of course, his first thought is, I can't wait to call Doug. And that's the beginning of the end of his friendship with Doug Bradley. And, you know, this kind of stuff is really interesting to me, just in that, you know, not so much that it's pure drama and then I need to, like, you know, Kermit the Frog drink the tea or whatever kind of thing. But it's more just like, it's just so sad considering these guys have been friends for so long. And it's just what driving Hellraiser into the ground did to a friendship, you know, from the studio, really.
No, it's tough. Mixing business and friendship is tough. When we got that third listener, it nearly destroyed us.
Yes, that's true.
It went right to my head. Yeah. So I apologize, because
that third listener kind of preferred me, so it was 2-1.
That was, let's not litigate this again.
True.
Let's just, you know, I'm trying to be the bigger man here. But no, it is interesting because and we'll talk about the movie eventually, but I just think this behind the scenes stuff is great. But so, yeah, he calls up Doug, and I guess according to Gary Tunnicliffe, he calls up Doug Bradley and is like, hey, guess what? I'm doing another Hellraiser movie. And like his first response is like, why are you making another piece of shit for those assholes?
Yeah, for those assholes. Yeah.
Honestly, yes, Doug, you are
Point
correct.
taken.
Yeah, because they've just shitting this stuff out. And for Gary, it's very exciting. This is a very exciting thing. This is a chance to do it. As a fan, he's like, finally, I can write the ship the way I want to. It's not shove Hellraiser into this. It's me making a Hellraiser movie.
And we can be buds on set.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it exciting that, like, I can write stuff and you can punch it up on set like you usually do, and we'll be in this together.
Yeah, we gotta hang out. We're buds,
you know?
But yeah, but he was pissed. You know, Doug Bradley was like, no, this sucks. Like, these people suck. These movies have sucked. I want to do something else. You know, they've screwed me over a whole bunch. And eventually he's finally like, fine, I'll look at your script. And he's like, okay, great. So he talks to the producer, Michael Lee. However, the people at Dimension, at the Harvey Weinstein Company and all that, they're like, look, Doug Bradley has talked a lot of shit.
Yeah.
He has talked a lot of shit on the last movie that you wrote and a bunch of stuff. We got to be careful that he's not going to keep doing that. And so Gary's like, no problem. We'll get him to sign an NDA. So he had a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that you won't spill the beans on what's about to be shown to you and stuff like that. And
very common, very
extremely common. And I've signed several for stuff that's like, who am I going to tell?
You know, am I going to go to the message board of this obscure medical device discussion? You know,
you thought this ain't your daddy's catheter. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's like, you shouldn't be using your father's catheter. Get your own. He needs it. But Michael A., he was like, I have one that I used on a previous movie. Here, we'll just, cross out the name of that movie, right in Hellraiser Judgment. Happens a lot.
Also very typical.
Yeah. And he sent it to Doug Bradley. And Doug Bradley's like, how dare you? Yeah. How dare you do this to me? And then later was telling the press that, like, no, it was because it was overly complicated, that, it just was really barring me from all of my legal rights and stuff. And then there was just a big blow up about it, and it just crushed their friendship, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah. And Gary even said, like, it was even off-putting that Doug didn't say, well, let me read your script from the outset. Like, he had to even be convinced of that. So you've got, like, a friend of yours who's in a position to make a movie and put you back in it, and you're not even excited to hear about what his ideas are. And that's got to be kind of crushing. Yeah. Just in from the outset. So.
I mean, and maybe, to Doug's credit, maybe Doug was like, I watched the last movie, man. I don't want to read your script here. Yeah, like, I don't want to deal with trying to tell you, I don't know, man. But
having said that, when friends ask you to read their scripts, it's kind of tough sometimes.
It can be tough.
Give
but
notes. Ooh.
yeah, but they're both professionals. They're, I'm sure they could take it. They're not me. But read my script, Jim.
I'll have notes for you any day now. But just wanted to give it a third reread.
Still trying to get past page 1. But yeah, so that's unfortunate because he really wanted Doug, and he publicly still says, yes, I would have rather had Doug. And that is, and we'll get into the performance of the third Pinhead, Paul Taylor.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of money set aside for Doug, unlike, they didn't try to Gunnar Hansen him and just be like, hey, here's $2.
Yeah. For 3 days shooting.
Shooting. Yeah. They had 15 days total for this movie, which Gary Tunnicliffe maximized by putting himself in a fairly main role, but mostly uncredited.
Yep.
Which I get, because it's like, look, I know my availability. I know what I could be doing, and the way he kind of stacked it out, because he is a character called the Auditor, who plays, he's kind of Pinhead's second in command here in this version.
Yeah. He, I was listening to him talk about, the advantages of maximizing those hours on the day too, especially as an actor in your own film, because he doesn't have to give direction to anybody. He just says like, okay, roll on me. I'm going to give 5 different options. Boom, 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 boom. Moving on. Yeah. And he's like, one of those I know will work. And that's economical.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Someone suggested him about playing you could just be Pinhead. And for a split second, he was like, oh yeah, I did that before. But he was like, wait a minute, they're already going to hate me. Why invite this other stuff into my life? So that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, it starts with this guy, Carl Watkins, receives a letter and is said like, hey, come to 55 Ludovico Street, being from the first Hellraiser. So already I'm like, okay, cool. Are we back there? For a second, I thought we were back in the weird. Well, because if it's Ludovico Street, we're back in the weird non-country that is both England and America, but it's mostly America this time around. And I like the weird transition, because you see the letter, and it's almost like a silent film is the way I thought it, because it's just shot so you can read the letter. And then the letter pulls down. It transitions from him in his apartment getting the letter. The letter lowers and it's in front of the building. So it's like his point of view, but then he walks into frame. I just like that kind of like that puts you off your guard as to sort of what's happening. Right. Kind of dreamlike. I really enjoyed that, but skipped over. Should say the movie opens proper with a conversation in silhouette between Pinhead and who we eventually find is the Auditor. Just talking about how, like, man, these boxes, they don't do what they used to anymore.
Irrelevant. In an age when desire has become amplified, but where lust can be sated electronically, we need something more than just a wooden box.
There is a mechanism. The house is ready. We can adapt.
Because of technology.
Because of the internet, yeah.
So I am all for, just talking about how the internet is rotting all of our brains. However, in the context of a Hellraiser movie, is he basically just saying like, the puzzle box is the same thing as online porn at this point, because you can kind of get whatever sensation you want. And I'm just like, that really limits the puzzle box to me, because it's not just about like sexual gratification, as we've talked about.
Right.
So that maybe I was harshly reading that. But
I think Pinhead's Etsy shop has been suffering. He had his own thing going, but it is kind of weird because that's not really ever brought up again.
Right. The technology aspect.
The technology aspect of like that sin is available on demand. Well, we'll always be here. We'll just have to sort of change the way we do stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to just guide you into this whole Stygian Inquisition element of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, we move back to Carl Watkins, and he goes, and as soon as he opens the door to the house, you hear this like creepy harpsichord kind of like music box music, which is a tired thing. Yeah. Like that is tired thing. But the way that scene was shot reminded me of Part 4. And so I immediately, my brain, and this is me. This isn't necessarily what they allowed to, tried to do or whatever. But just some guy coming to this room late at night and you hear this sort of like classical ass music kind of playing, but it's all busted. So I was like, well, I'm just going to assume that's a callback and not just garbage.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, he goes inside and then he gets to work with his audit.
Right. So the audit is just a guy asking questions, right? And just like typing it up on a typewriter. He wants to know all about the extensive list of sins that you've committed.
And I like the way the auditor looks. real quick. Like,
His
just
design is
he's
pretty
got
good.
these big black round glasses, and this was a design that Tunnicliffe had kind of floated for an abandoned Hellraiser project. So it's sort of based on that, but it's not the same because there's no pins or whatever. But the Arbiter is also slashed up, but his slashes are like at angles and they're much more kind of chaotic. They're less ordered than Pinhead's.
Right.
I think the choice to do a German accent is a little on the nose. It would be, but at the same time, I can see this character when Pinhead creates him or Leviathan creates him, whoever.
Right.
And it's like, hey, go to work in this officious office thing where you damn people to hell. It's like, isn't that a bit kind of obvious? Couldn't you have me do something else? But okay, that's fine.
It is on the schnoz, I think. A little bit. Well, yeah, I mean, and there were other references when he was talking about it. You know, the clerk in Schindler's List is what he kind of like patterned the performance on. And
yeah, well, he said he realized that like after the fact. He's like, I didn't realize. He's like, subconsciously, I might have been,
good,
because the look is kind of the same. He's like, but it certainly wasn't intentional because it'd be kind of hard to go like, oh yeah, no, Schindler's List was a huge influence on my Hellraiser movie.
On Hellraiser 10.
Yeah, it kind of feels a little gross, but I mean, that's a different kind of gross than Tunnicliffe was going for.
Which would I prefer? I'm not sure. So yeah, after your sins are typed up on a typewriter.
Using your own blood.
Using your own blood, yes, that's kind of cool.
They don't underline it because you see close-ups of the typewriter working and stuff whirring, and you get the sense that blood is flowing from a tube. They could have displayed that a little bit better, but you get the general idea. And I guess the paper is supposed to be skin, but it never comes across as that.
Exactly, yeah. A big guy called the Assessor comes out. He pulls out your skin papers, puts them on a plate, dabs them with tears of children, which I was like,
children.
I was like, all right, that's another corny thing.
Yeah.
Wait, is there going to be some sort of like baby doll mask? Yeah, later.
Yeah.
So then he just really disgustingly shovels all the paper into his mouth as if he's eating them, vomits them back up. The vomit goes down a tube into a tub where these three topless women with messed up faces just put their arms into the bile and the muck and the vomit, and they render judgment right there.
Based on whatever the sense they get from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I like the whole metaphysical idea of this. However, I'm just going to say it. This is a level of grossness I don't prefer to watch.
It's disgusting. It actually gets grosser.
It gets worse
a little bit later. It's again a thing that's like for what they're going for. Yes, it's disgusting and having a reaction to it. But again, you see the budgetary stuff here because the three judges or the jury, I believe they're called, are these topless women with kind of like Cenobitis faces, like peeled back stuff, whatever. But they're nude except for like a tiny thong. That just kind of looks like an athletic thong or something. So it's like, apparently Tunnicliffe didn't want to go. He's like, I think it's uncomfortable for people to be nude on set or whatever. And had said also that like there is a production value in nudity versus like a crappy Spirit Halloween costume. But it's like you kind of went halfway there. And so it feels a little just like
sure.
And then these naked ladies are there, which I mean, whatever. But it just feels out of place with some of it. But I also have an issue with the Assessor, but let's
sure. Just like what he said when he said that in that interview, it made me laugh so hard because I was just like, on the one hand, I buy it, like instead of a crappy costume.
Yeah.
Like you don't want another like really dumb costume on set here. But on the other hand, it's just like, yeah, it's an excuse for naked ladies in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not a prude about it. But at the same time, I was like, that's what you're using as justification.
Right.
I can kind of see it. But
yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's better than just having a guy go gratuitous tit shot. But my other issue is like, because we eventually see other Cenobites and stuff later. And yes, there's certainly like makeup stuff on their face, but it still just seems kind of like, again, the sort of like half measure.
Yeah.
The Assessor is just, hey, what if a guy was fat and not wearing a shirt?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not, I don't know. I mean, fat shameless body stuff aside, it's just like, it's kind of unimaginative.
Right.
Like I would have liked to have seen something like they do a little bit more with the Butcher or something like that.
Sure.
Because it is just kind of plain that the actor that plays the Assessor, that is John Gulager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Director of, we've talked about him before. Because he's the director of Feast, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point.
Sure.
He's the son of Clu Gulager.
Yeah.
Character actor extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic Clu Gulager.
Well, it is funny though when when Tunnicliffe said, when I wrote this part, I knew there was only one person in mind that could play this. And I was like, oh, that's kind of offensive.
Yeah, that's kind of like, there's only one slob who can shovel skin into his mouth.
Right.
That's John Gulager.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary.
Right. So so after you are judged,
yeah.
And I do wonder, is there anyone that ever gets found not guilty by these ladies?
Well, yes. I mean, we will find that. But yes, before then, I'm not sure.
That's what it's
a good point to bring up, though, is that this guy, when the auditor was asking him the questions, because this guy is a pederast, and goes, "Yeah, that's me. I'm that. I did all that stuff."
Right.
What are you judging then? What do you need to touch his vomit for? He just said that he was doing that shit.
Giving him a fair shot, I guess. Are you sure? You know,
I think this leads into, because we eventually see Pinhead because we'll be back in this space. We see Pinhead is just hanging out in this blue room by himself, and he's kind of in charge of these. Is that like essentially he is now working at the equivalent of like the DMV?
Yes.
Is it these are all just like government make work jobs for people? Like, no, we got to go through this process. These people. If this guy admits his guilt, we still have to do this.
Yep.
So the jury ladies can do their job or whatever. It's procedure. We just have to.
After he's found guilty, then he is strapped to a table and the butcher walks in. Big giant dude with a baby doll mask on. Very early 2000s. This is creepy, isn't it? Type of propping. I liked when the little surgeon guy jumps out of him, but I didn't like the design of the surgeon because it was just like, that's too bad. You just have a gas mask on.
Yeah, it's a latex bodysuit with a gas mask.
Yeah.
And yeah, that whole character, those two characters, the butcher and the surgeon, feel very much like a survival horror video game.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The Evil Within, or I forget the name of the guy that made that in Resident Evil, but like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, you think it's this big guy, and surprise, there's a little guy that comes out of the back. The butcher turns around. It reminded me the character design reminded me of that awful character that I hate from Hellboy that's made out of sand. It's just like the Kung Fu Nazi guy.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That character's like slashing him up with these half moon blades. And you think it's just going to town on him, but they're actually peeling the skin off. And the way it initially was going to go is then that skin is processed back into the paper that the guy uses. And then the butcher breaks down the component parts. And those would go to a person called like the bone collector that he wanted to be like a 5-year-old girl or something that would like tag the bones. Again, this very bureaucratic version of hell.
Yeah.
Fitting. Like it's a new way to do it, and kind of what we've sort of been playing around with the Pinhead at Work theme we've been dealing with, but you never see either of those characters again. But it's a neat little thing, and that's it. That's all we see of Carl Watkins. He's done now. He's done now. He's dead. We're out of the house and back to the real movie.
Right. So yeah, it's such a jarring opening. Well, it's a jarring switch into the real world because you're like, it's like an opening sequence that goes so long considering the runtime of the movie. Yeah. I'm sure that's like, he knew that and that was intention, but it's just jarring, I guess.
Yeah, because it's 12 minutes of a 80-minute movie.
Yeah.
So like that's not nothing. And then so when to go into these credits, which are very 7-ish. Yeah. Although Tunnicliffe does not like that comparison, but it is. Sorry.
If that's the only comparison to 7, then yeah.
There's going to be more later. Which is fine. Whatever. Right. Like I think by 2018 that's sort of an established type of thriller.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The one that springs to mind immediately is Resurrection with Christopher Lambert, which is ridiculous, and I don't recommend it, but it's got some moments, I'll say that.
Right.
And then you get back to the real world, because I think it's also because like then we go to a different opening scene where it's this drunk girl coming home, getting mad at her Uber driver and wandering around her apartment, thinking that because she comes into her apartment, very nice apartment, candles everywhere. She thinks some ex-boyfriend is trying to get back together with her, and she can't find her dog. And then a guy appears and murders her.
We're starting off our police detective narrative because then we cut to these two brothers, and I did say out loud, "Oh God, another cop Hellraiser movie."
Yep.
Yeah. So but this one's for the intellectuals out there because they talk about A Tale of Two Cities a whole lot. So I don't know if you read books or not.
I've never read a book.
Yeah. So this is for the thinking man, out there. A Tale of Two Cities. Read it in middle school, high school, maybe.
Yeah, I read it in high school. Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, they mentioned several times that it's the most popular book. It's one of the most popular books on the planet. I think they say the most popular, but
right. I think the Bible would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, I think the Quran would like to have a word.
Right.
Yeah, so they're having this. They're on the way to the crime scene, and it's Sean and David, and Sean is broody and quiet, and David is more like put together. And I thought he was British at first, but he's very much not.
He wears a sweater with his tie and jacket. It shows how put together he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the other guy is, he's suffering from PTSD from the war and alcoholism. So you know where this is going to go.
That is Damon Carney as Sean and Randy Wayne as David. They go to this crime scene, and yes, this girl has been murdered. There's a looping video of her with her tiny dog saying,
"This little guy. I worship this little guy."
Written in blood next to the body, it says, "I am a jealous god." Are there cops at the crime scene?
Nope. They just walk in.
They just walk in, right? Because you would have to cast and hire people, and that's money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're investigating the body, and then in walks a stranger, Christine Edgerton, played by Alexandra Harris, who's also a cop. And they pull their guns on her, and they're all very cool about it.
Detectives Carter and Carter, brothers in arms, literally. Detective Edgerton, I've been assigned to this case with you.
Christine Edgerton there's nothing wrong with her performance.
Sure.
She's entirely miscast for this role, though. Like she is a child, and she's supposed to be another detective. And Randy's even kind of pushing it, but it's just like, it's like very CW casting, where it's that I'm 18, or Resident Evil, where I'm 18, but I'm already like a detective, sergeant, major, whatever.
Or like Tammy Preston in The Return.
Right. Yeah.
Twin Peaks. It's just like, oh, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, she shows up, and they figure out, they're like, wait a minute, where's the dog? Oh, wait, well, before I get to that real quick, Tunnicliffe also talked about casting that's like, no one's that excited to be in the 10th Hellraiser movie. So it's tough. You can't really put
amazing.
You can't really put a call out and be like, who wants to be in number 10, everybody? The people that he cast were indeed very excited. And it was actually the studio suggestion that they bring in a third detective. It was originally just going to be the two brothers. I don't necessarily agree. She's a third wheel for a lot of it. None of these characters are very fleshed out.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, well, you could have spent some of that time, dividing it between three characters and having each of those characters walk in a police station multiple times, and have a little more character, but fine, whatever. While they're there, they're like, oh gosh, where's her dog? There's supposed to be a dog. And then the body starts moving.
Gary sewed a dog inside a woman's womb.
Oh, Gary.
Pretty gross. And, I hope that puppy's okay.
But, it is a toy dog that they pull out of there. And then to make it look bloody, they just got it wet and had her hands be bloody. I'm like, that's some ingenious stuff, because I guess they got some pushback from that. But
fair enough.
Impressive. I mean, like, you are shocking me left and right here, Gary. I'm on board with it. It's already, I can see the scaffolding on this thing.
Right.
But like, you're doing it, man. Yep. You are making a disgusting, transgressive Hellraiser movie.
Totally. So yeah, take that, dog moms everywhere.
Yeah.
Self-styled dog moms. You'll wake up with your puppy sewn into you sometime. That's terrible. Did I just say that?
Yeah. As a cat person, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Okay, so then we follow the Scuzzier detective home, and of course he misses his wife's birthday. That's all that really needs to be said about that.
Yeah, this is the work of a serial killer they're calling the Preceptor.
Preceptor, yeah.
Yeah, which they eventually reveal later that he's been sending them a lot of letters. Because at first I was like, you would not be calling him this. Why would the dog sewer?
Right.
But yeah, he's the Preceptor, and he's been killing people based on commandments.
10 Commandment Killer.
The 10 Commandment Killers. But please don't compare this to 7.
Yeah, please don't compare this to 7. There are 3 more.
There are 3 more commandments.
This is more hardcore.
And they're in the Bible. Those other things, that's made up nonsense.
That's just other stuff.
That's fan fiction. We're going to the source.
To use the words of the TV show Dexter, our next tableau.
Oh.
Yes. Is a playground with a bunch of several hands that are propped up on severed hands that are popped up on a slide, and clutched inside is an eyeball. So
yeah, I like, it's unfortunate. Again, the styling in the budget hurt this, because like that is a terrifying image. Like it was just very just shocking monument of like these closed fists around a jar that I think had something in it as well.
Teeth, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they are able to open, they're able to open the hands and find the eyes and the tooth in there. And they look up, and written on the fence of this school in a bunch of missing children posters is the word thieves. There are several scenes of montages because they don't have a lot of time to film everything they want to. And, you know, they know that they have no budget to work with.
Yeah.
But there's just like when there are these scenes of them detecting, it never comes away with really anything. It's just them like looking around their detective office being like, look at that. Oh, let's look at this.
Yeah. There's no scene that kind of pulls it all together. At the end
it's like, I found this one thing. Yeah. Although
no Eureka moment.
They eventually like later figure out, David puts it together that, this school, like the first victim or something had a tie to the school. And then this school is also where this guy around the same time got kicked out for being a giant pervert. Like got arrested for it. That's your Carl Watkins from the beginning.
Right.
And so they go to Carl's apartment and they meet Carl's landlady. Surprise casting Heather Langenkamp.
Yep.
From Nightmare on Elm Street. In there for like 3 lines.
For 45 seconds. She's third billed in the credits up top. Evidently, her family lives in Oklahoma. She was out visiting family and somebody had a connection to her. And she's like, yeah, sure, I'll come play. You know, that's fine. But then she spoke to the press about it and just said like, oh, yeah, I was in the new Hellraiser movie or something like that. And then that reignited all the drama with Doug Bradley because he said something like, oh, I guess she didn't have to sign an NDA. Yeah, because everyone was like, oh, there's a new Hellraiser. Let's talk to Doug Bradley. What does Doug Bradley have to say about this? Yeah. And then he's like, oh, well, they didn't ask me, or, you know, they treated me like vermin. And then Gary Tunnicliffe tried to smooth it all out, and then it did not help. Right. But it's nice to see her. And I guess like, I too have the first reaction of like, oh man, she looks terrible. She is made up to look terrible. Yes. That is not what she looks like. Because I was just like, oh, she's aged a lot. And it's like, and no. Her husband is a makeup effects. He's a makeup effects guy. Yeah. Because they didn't have a whole lot of time to spend on her makeup, but they did a little bit, and it's she looks terrible.
That cocksucker owes me 2 months' rent. He hasn't been here for a couple of days.
Think you'd be hiding out inside?
If he is, he's freezing his ass off in the dark. I cut his power yesterday.
Seriously? No windows?
Honey, with what those boys are doing in there, no windows ain't a bad thing.
She looks terrible, but she is the landlady that lets them into the apartment. And it's disgusting. And they find, among other things, they find my favorite prop in the entire movie, a porno mag called Bottoms Up. Yeah. And the cover is a butt, and it says the B spot on the butt. And the B spot made me laugh. Just not what was intended, but right. It's also just because it's like he would eventually like find some really questionable stuff on the guy's computer, but it's just like that's such an innocuous for sure thing to like, oh, look, he was reading about butts. It's like, you've shown me a whole bunch of Severed stuff and people drinking vomit and stuff. And you're just like, yeah, but what if someone was into butts? Wouldn't that be gross?
He's a butt man. Ew. Yeah. They find evidence of where he was going to the house. Yeah.
They find the letter, the Ludovico letter, despite the fact that he had it at the house or whatever. That was that thing at the beginning. I'm just not going to worry about that.
Totally. So they go investigate the house, or just the one older cop. The brother goes to investigate the house. Guess what? He passes out, wakes up. Yeah, our favorite
classic Hellraiser
in Hellraiser. Yeah, and so now it is his turn to face the auditor. So we got our auditor character back. We get kind of another version of the first scene. There are a whole bunch of puzzle boxes in that particular room at this time. It comes up that he was in war, so of course he was killing people and it's okay and all that kind of stuff.
You were a man protecting his country. You were permitted to carry out these acts. But what were you permitted to feel? What did you feel?
I didn't feel. What the hell was I supposed to feel?
You have killed a great many people.
I was doing my job.
You will purge from yourselves the guilt of shedding innocent blood, for you have done what is right in the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah, that was some weird justification. I mean, like, as we've talked about, like, I'm not, neither of us would seem to be huge fans of this, like, Pinhead as arbiter, as like this moral touch point.
Right.
But it's very weird to be like, look, killing's wrong, but if the state says to do it, who are you to judge?
Yeah, that's outside of our jurisdiction as hell priest.
Yeah, politics is blameless. Yeah. Yeah, it was a very weird deflection of what that could mean.
Totally. Yeah. Then the assessor comes in and does his thing, and I just wrote big deal because it's just, I don't like watching this.
That's what they should have called that character, Big Deal.
Big deal.
That's what it says on the back of his suit jacket.
Big deal. Yeah, he does choke, so it is a little different.
The stuff, yeah, he starts eating the stuff and he chokes on it,
yeah,
and dies.
Right,
I guess.
So he kills the assessor because this guy's sins are so great. He's just still some sort of like drunk chode.
Well,
So,
we're unclear why it is because he burps and spits out some black stuff and dies, and then the daughter's like, oh poopy. It goes check on the jury, and the jury's like, hey, there's some black stuff. Look at this. This is nasty. Oh poopy. I got to go talk to my boss. He's staring at he's in a blue room staring at nothing. I'm sure he'll want to know about this. But on his way, he's interrupted by this very bright light.
Yes.
And man, this bit looks so cheap.
It does.
It's unfortunate. Or it goes in where the bright light is, and it's the angel Jophiel or Jophiel.
Yeah.
It's a real angel a real angel. Like it's a biblical angel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the ones that cast them down into hell, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's a canonical angel.
There you go.
But they didn't have a real outfit for her, so it's just a pretty actress in a white suit with no shirt.
Suit jacket.
Yeah. Just kind of, oh, all right. But they're like, hey, let this guy go.
I don't care. The jury never passed their verdict. You let him go, do you understand?
Not really, no.
Well, do you understand who is in charge? So let him go.
That's the deal. We are actually sort of in charge of you. Let this guy go.
Yep.
He's innocent. And then he's like, well, I don't know about that. Let me check with my supervisor. He is already, by the way, like in going to check with, before he goes to check with the supervisor, he goes back. He sentences Sean to be cleaned.
Right.
Ready to get ready for the butcher and whatever. And the cleaning process is, to me, the most disgusting part in this movie.
I hated this so much.
Yeah.
I just don't like saliva and bile and that kind of stuff.
Not a fan of juices.
Give me all the blood and guts you can. Juices, not so much.
He initially wanted like a bunch of really old women to be nude and do this, and he couldn't find that, so he found some more middle-aged women to do it. But they're licking him clean. Yeah. Then I don't remember if it's them or the auditor that says like you have to be clean as on the inside as well as the outside. And what they do is I'm sorry, but this is what happens in the movie. They collect their saliva into a receptacle and then dump it into his mouth. And it was made with like egg whites and stuff. It's just foamy and disgusting. It was so nasty to watch. And that
I hated it.
Like I watched them pull a live dog out of a woman's body, and I'm like, ugh, this is too far. This is disgusting.
Well, it reminds me of back to like whatever Saw movie it was with the pig slop.
Yeah.
You know, that's as close. This might be worse for me personally because I feel like this is a tad more realistic in a weird way.
This is going for a much more gross out thing than the other Hellraisers ever did.
Yeah, right.
Like even the slimy and the nastiness of one still served more of a story purpose than just like what's the grossest way I can do this. It's a way to do it. It's not my particular favorite way to do it. You know, whatever. Yeah. So it's very nasty. Anyway, but Pinhead's like, oh, what the hell? That's kind of bullshit.
You must go after him. Bring him back. We must dig deeper. We must find out what you feel once you're released.
There's no need to go after him. He'll be back.
But he's escaped. He has gotten his hands free of Sean has escaped the cleaners. You see him get his hands free from one of the shackles and like grab one of their hairs and cuts away.
Yeah.
And he's, I guess, killed them too.
Right.
And then it's just back to business as usual for Sean.
Business as usual, which involves him having sex with his wife that night and two female Cenobites like at the edge of the bed, and they strap a mask to his face.
Yeah.
And has visions of the lady Cenobites and stuff like that. So it's another like kind of dreamy, sexy type of Hellraiser sequence.
Yeah, and wakes up screaming, and his wife is, I guess, forgiving him and is like, hey, that sucks.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say anything and just leaves.
Yep.
And he leaves to go drink.
At Sean's place, his brother finds a copy of A Tale of Two Cities, 2 underlined bits, Seasons of Darkness and Seasons of Despair. So, that's what a killer does, is highlights in his book,
The only 2 relevant passages. There's nothing else in the book, just those 2 things.
I was thinking about that, and I meant to look it up before we recorded, but I can only go from my memory. It's about, the French Revolution.
Yeah.
I hope that's what it's about.
Yeah,
that's what I remember. And I remember the needlepoint and the blankets and the guillotines and stuff like that. Some good stuff in there. I have no idea what it has to do with hell, pain and pleasure, or
it's supposed to be a tip off, because I'm just gonna let the cat out of the bag here.
Yeah.
Sean is the preceptor, or that he's been the killer this whole time. Whatever. Yeah. Because he's knowledgeable about books. He's a reader, and it's supposed to like feed into that. There's some like feints that it might be the brother, other stuff. I was never really concerned who it was. It seemed kind of ancillary to everything else that was going on. But yeah, so his brother because they had talked about Dickens before, and his brother finds that book and is looking at it. And it's the only 2 passages that are underlined and highlighted, which is ridiculous. And then takes it to Edgerton and is like, oh, look at that. He's read a book before. She's like, well, that's a problem. Yeah. Let's, let me question him.
Here, a reader?
Yeah. And so she brings it up to him, and he's like, no, I don't know. He's never really mentioned it in his letters. There's one time he kind of quoted Dickens, but it wasn't really anything worth writing home about. So it's like, oh, that kind of throws me off the scent, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's like a scene where, and I think it was this one, because where they're going to, she and him are going to go to the coroner, because the coroner, like, for whatever reason, took a long time to do this autopsy, so I feel like a couple of days have passed at this point.
Yeah. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. No eating.
He's absolutely wearing no eating, but it's still a slob. They still try to drive that. But as they're like, this was kind of what I was getting at before. They're leaving to go do that. Should they get in the car? There's already like suspicion. The brother David has already kind of showed her this letter. It's kind of like, hey, I'm kind of it's like, yeah, I don't know. Because she's also, it's revealed, brought onto the case because Sean's been kind of a loose cannon. They think maybe the drinking might be back. He's, falling off the wagon, or like that he's getting too involved. And they want to make sure.
Is it time for his badge and gun?
It might be, to make sure, see if it's time for his badge and gun.
Yeah.
They have that conversation. Hey, let's go see the coroner. They go out to the car. They get in the car, and she goes, wait, I forgot my phone. Gets back up. Another shot of her walking back in the police station. Goes inside, is like, hey, check on this stuff for me. Let's stay in contact. Okay. Back to the car, driving. Like, you could have done that all in one scene. Like, that was just like this real pointless Coleman Francis ass padding of parking and whatnot. And it's just like just weird, inelegant stuff like that permeates this whole thing. It's like, this. I understand you were like under the gun, but some of the stuff could have been a lot more smoothly handled, and make it feel a little bit less clunky. Yeah, which I didn't realize that the police station front there's actually a sign for a flower shop on the top, and they took that out and replaced it. Yep.
I did. So when I was listening to that interview, I appreciate it when Tunnicliffe says, like, yeah, you think the CGI is bad in this movie or something. Well, you didn't notice when somebody masked out a sign on the outside of the police station.
But that shit sucks.
Yes.
It's not fun to do. I mean, they're all lock-off shots, which is nice. But yeah, rotoscoping and replacing that stuff, never any fun.
There you go.
And I guess the guy kind of the guy just sort of did it on his own time. So that was, that was nice.
He had a lot of people come in like on Saturdays off from like the G&E department and stuff like that to do like insert shots and like volunteer time. So provided that's all true, that's great.
You always kind of, on one hand, you like the rah, we're in this together. Yeah. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I hope no one's taking advantage of you, but they want to do it. Like, I was just reading a thing about the new Mission Impossible where Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise were like talking to someone about like, how long would it take to get Tom up to speed on becoming a helicopter pilot? And they're like, 8 hours a day. Like, with this stuff, we could probably do it in 3 months. And then Tom Cruise like, what about the other 16 hours of the day? And so they got him like a helicopter license in a month and a half. So it's just like, if someone's like, no, I'm still getting paid either way, but like, I want to make sure that this thing is good. If you're willing to do that, that's fine.
Right.
But yeah, so they go talk to the coroner, and the coroner's like, oh yeah, by the way, her cell phone was in her throat. I don't know why no one noticed that. I don't know how you get a cell phone that size down there, but yeah. I'm not a serial killer.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it died. But the thing is like, based on the blood patterns or something, it's clear that the killer took her away, did the stuff to her, and then brought her back. It was a long way to go, man.
Yeah.
But so we realized that the GPS is going to tell where the shit is.
Right.
They go to that location, which is an abandoned storeroom or, like a storage facility.
Yeah. Your classic abandoned warehouse that you can get for cheap in a horror movie or action movie.
With or without stacked boxes.
Yeah, I was going to say stacked cardboard boxes here and there. Within this spot, is basically your evidence dungeon. Like there's big posters on the wall of the previous, 9 people?
Yeah.
Because he's up to the final person that he has to kill. In that moment, Edgerton rips down the last person, and it is a photo of his wife in bed with the brother.
Yeah, it seems like it's a selfie that his brother took, and the wife's kind of hiding. Because it was, my first reaction was wait, was he there?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Uh-oh, now we know that the main cop guy is in fact our serial killer, and he immediately knocks her unconscious.
Yeah.
Evidently, he actually hit her, and she went down. And he was mortified completely, but he didn't pull the stunt and clocked her in the forehead. And I guess that's why in previous scenes that they shot out of sequence, she's wearing sunglasses in several shots.
Yep, and they had to digitally remove some bruising from there. But she was a pro about it. Did the scene, and it was I'm fine. We'll go to the hospital. Let's finish the scene first.
Yeah.
Are you sure? So yeah, but they did it, and everyone involved felt terrible about it. But
yes,
it's all fine. But yeah, that shit that's the danger of not having a fight coordinator or just uncoordinated, that kind of stuff. On a no budget movie, you're not going to have that.
No,
the jig is up. We know it's him, and I don't care.
Yeah, it's so underwhelming. And
there's only 4 characters in this entire movie, so it's not I totally thought it was this guy. It's just okay, we're doing this now, because none of these characters, there's no characters there. This is all pretty flat.
There's no weight.
Yeah, you're just you're reading a Wikipedia article about this movie, or you're listening to a podcast about it.
But don't not listen to the podcast.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that.
Little brother shows up. Older brother holds him at gunpoint, and there's some shitty metal music playing in the background. I was like, duh. I don't.
Now I'm doing evil stuff. I got to put on my sweet Sepultura or whatever.
You wouldn't call back up on your own brother, not until you knew for sure, so I called someone else. In here!
I came as fast as I could.
Shit.
Sean, what are you doing?
There's this older story about how he caught her cheating again at a time and burned the guy alive in a car.
Yeah, took his eyelids.
Slices his eyelids off, put him in a car, sets it on fire.
Oh, Jesus. I forgot one of the other ridiculous, not to derail us, I'm sorry, but one of the other ridiculous crimes that the preceptor has done is that he killed 2 people, cut out their tongues, blended them up in a blender, and made their kids drink the tongues because they were telling lies. So we'll make the kids feed the kids their lies. So they're just okay.
I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah. That's I'm glad we didn't see that, but just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't need to watch kids be in danger like that.
There's also, I also don't know how you're that bonkers and then can just be all right, well, over here, I'm fine now. It seems like you'd be a pretty big tell that you were that,
right, in the rest of your life.
You'd at least be a Norman Bates, where people are I don't know about you, where everyone's no, this guy's just a cop and he's fine.
Right. So he orders the other 2 to open the puzzle box, and this gets into that sticky territory of opening the box with intent. I guess we are well past that as a rule at this point in the series, because she opens the box and Pinhead walks in, and at least he's trying to be magisterial in his entrance. They give him an honorable Pinhead entrance, which is a lot more than we can say about the previous film.
Everything gets kind of bathed in this blue light, chains on the ceilings, and a portal opens and a doorway opens and he steps through. And we've already seen the Paul Taylor Pinhead a few times, and they did the makeup and the costuming a little bit differently, which I think is fine. I don't love the Pinhead in a turtleneck kind of thing, but I will say that Paul T. Taylor understands Pinhead better than the previous Pinhead.
Yes.
Because I think probably this is also, I don't want to put it all on the actor because obviously Gary Tunnicliffe knows, but just that he's so much more reserved and magisterial and not constantly shifting around and bug-eyed
Yeah.
And you could look at the makeup and go, well, that's not Doug Bradley, but he still carries that same gravitas. I think he pulls it off pretty well. It's not Doug Bradley, but it's good. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it's totally acceptable. Like I'm not mad at this Pinhead. He's
they
fine.
shoot him in proper angles, proper lighting, like it just feels a lot more befitting of Pinhead and anybody who's going to try to take over from Doug Bradley, which is a fool's errand in itself.
Yeah. Kudos to Paul Taylor. Again, the classic thing we've seen now several times where guess what? He brought them all here. Sean, the preceptor, brought them all here to trade them. Yeah. He's like, hey, I took a box from your audit of me. Some shit went down. So you find out basically that like the reason they try to do this feint where the assessor got choked on the stuff because the Lord got involved, that heaven went, no. But no, his shit was just so bad. It killed a demon from hell.
Yeah.
I knew someone would come for me. So I thought I'd save you the time and offer you a deal.
There is no deal to be made.
Them for me, adulterers. They opened the box.
And they will be dealt with accordingly.
I mean, and even just like the trading of the souls, that tells me that Sean is not in pursuit of pleasure.
Right.
At all. He's just a messed up serial killer.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. He's just trying to launder his sins and just like, but if I give you this stuff, it's like, no, because it's not up to me. This separate faction that I work for now, they want your soul. Nothing I can do about it. Sorry. The paperwork's already in, buddy.
Yeah.
The wheels of bureaucracy are in motion.
We respect process here in hell.
Auditor shows back up and it's like, hey guys, what's up? I'm going to take your soul. But then Jophiel shows back up.
The angel,
sexy business lady, kind of reveals that no, Sean's part of heaven's plan.
There are matters at play here that are part of a bigger plan, and he is a part of it.
You want him out there on Earth. Or rather, he wants him out there. He wants his flock afraid of the wolf so that they look toward the light.
You're not as foolish as you look.
In order for there to be good, we have to create evil.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a little bit. I mean, I appreciate and I guess this is a little closer tied to the Scarlet Gospels, which we'll probably talk about in the wrap up. That like, no, heaven is involved. Because I personally like the idea of what we've seen before, where it's like, we're the only game in town, baby.
Yeah.
We don't know if there's angels or anything, but we have this other pain dimension. You can come here. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. This is 10 movies in and we're getting heaven after all the talk of hell. So
tying it to the kind of, the Judeo-Christian mythos, I guess. Is
core rule book.
Yeah. Rather than being the expansion, a standalone expansion. So it's like, well, sorry, they're like, no, too bad. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Send him back.
Send him back.
So the auditor sends him back, and right as he's back in the real world, Edgerton is not dead and just plugs him in the face. And I like, well, because she shoots him a few times, and then he starts like trying to quote Dickens, and she just unloads into
totally.
It's like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
The angel's pretty pissed off, and Pinhead's like, oh, you're in trouble now. You don't know suffering. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm Pinhead. This is my thing. And so starts chaining her, like shooting the chains at her.
Also kills the two brothers, or like the brother and the wife that shows up.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny because just previous to that, he says something like, your adultery is beneath me.
Right.
Which I kind of like that as a thing for Pinhead. He's like, so I do not care about simple adultery, but then he chains him.
Right. Well, I think that's more of a like, you called the manager for this. Like, guys, this isn't important enough for me. Like, wake me up, solve this problem on yourself. Wake me up. Like, you're going to hell. Since I'm here, fine. Zap, zap. Totally. Chainy chain. You're gone. And then, he chains the angel and puts a crown of like, starts pulling out his pins and shoving it into her head, trying to give her like I got a crown of thorns or something, I guess.
Kind of neat, I guess. I missed the little slugs, of course.
But then I like, as punishment, God basically is like, well, guess what? You want suffering, buddy. You're going to have it. Or should I say, you're not going to have it. Takes away all the pins and just kicks him to earth, where he's just a homeless guy with a scarred up face.
So he hasn't been banished twice, I guess, because he's not Lucifer. But what's the worst thing that can happen to you as like a ruler of a domain is to be banished from that domain. So much like Lucifer, he was banished to the real world.
All the stuff he loved doing, like sitting and staring, he can no longer do, apparently.
He cannot do that.
Yeah, it's funny because like I do think that as an idea is great, but the Pinhead that we see in this movie is so bored and detached.
Yeah,
it's hard to be like, but maybe this was setting up a sequel where Pinhead like he gets his groove back and is like, you know what, I had it good. I'm gonna get back down there.
He loves to love again.
And it ends so abruptly. It's just Pinhead going like, no, and then the camera pans up and then that's it.
Yeah, and it's like this over like whitewashed out shot of him in an alley or something like that.
Again, it looks extremely cheap because it was the grand nature of like, this is a fallen king. This is a guy taking over his kingdom is just completely undercut by it just being really chintzy looking. And yeah, then that's boom, credits. And then did you watch the after credit scene?
Yeah, but only after I read about it.
Yeah, same thing. Sounds like I'm done with this. It's basically the opening to Heretic, where it's a couple of Mormon missionaries show up. They're in Germany, and they show up to a house, and it's the auditor.
Auditor again.
Yeah, it's not great. I think some of the ideas are great. As we said, some of the disgusting stuff is very disgusting and effective, and like it's a Hellraiser movie. Like it does kind of try to keep to it. I am not interested at all in the serial killer aspect of it, but I understand not wanting to just spend the entire movie with these disgusting people.
Totally.
It's fine. You know, like that's a low bar to clear for a Hellraiser movie. Certainly better than Revelations.
Yeah. The only thing that I want to applaud this movie for really is just like, Gary, you got your shot.
Yeah.
Finally. And like, even if I don't love it, it's the passion behind it. And this guy got to do something and it didn't cost very much. It's not like on the one hand, it's not like he wasted $10 million on a shitty Hellraiser movie. But on the other hand, I'm like, oh man, I kind of wish he had $10 million to make a Hellraiser movie. You know, just the passion is there.
Also, just hearing interviews with him and the humility he has about the whole thing, where he's like, it's not like I'm the only one that can save this. It's that I've got a shot to do this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to take my shot. I've been enjoying Hellraiser for like 30 years. I get to make a movie now. How cool is that? Do I know what I'm doing? I don't know, but I'm gonna learn doing a Hellraiser movie. So,
and I'm gonna put all of my time and resources and passion into it too. So, like, you could tell that he left it all on the floor.
Right? Yeah. So I don't want to take that away from him, but it's not a great movie. It's you know, but again, like if we're grading on the Hellraiser curve, anything after the third one, it's totally acceptable, and it's way better than we've gotten for at least the last couple anyway.
Right. Cut to the assessor, eating paper into his mouth, and John says 5 stars, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. Please stop eating my sins.
Right.
With children's tears. Why do you have children's tears? You know what? I don't want to know.
Children's tears,
bad question to ask.
Don't need that. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know what I expected the answer to be. Like, you can just get them off of eBay.
Well, again, Etsy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's honor our dead. Carl Watkins, played by Jeff Fenter, slashed to death and skinned by the surgeon. Crystal Lanning, played by Grace Monty, killed by Sean Carter. The Assessor, played by John Gallagher, killed by the Auditor while eating human flesh paper. David Carter, played by Randy Wayne, impaled by Pinhead with a hooked chain and dragged into hell. Allison Carter, played by Regan Wallace, also impaled by Pinhead with a hooked chain, dragged to hell. Sean Carter, played by Damon Carney, shot to death by Christine Joffiel, played by Helena Grace Donald, face ripped off by Pinhead with hooked chains. Yeah, so I would recommend watching this one, I guess. Be ready for some stomach churning imagery, for sure. But man, if you've hung with us this long, watch this one and watch not a master at work, but a passionate journeyman at work in the Gary's attempt here. Like a lot of the allusions to Seven and stuff like that, it's hard. It's like you don't want to fault him too much because it's like, I gotta make a movie and I'm just gonna do, I gotta wear all my influences on my sleeve or, whatever.
that shit like didn't the whole like Seven aspect of it with the religious stuff didn't bother me so much as it's just another gritty detective thing where we're doing that yet again,
right?
Which is feeling a little tiresome at this point. Whereas like in the Saw franchise, that's really that's much more baked into the whole thing because you're investigating this criminal. Yeah. Whereas this, we're just inventing new criminals each movie to do something with.
Totally.
But yeah, like it's really the big issue is just the low budgetness makes some of it hurt more than it really should.
Right.
But it's fine. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's got some interesting themes and it does stay pretty in that Hellraiser sweet spot. It understands. I mean, at this point, when you're this far into it, and there's been, the majority of the movies is Hellraiser or is Pinhead being a moral arbiter. Like, well, okay, well, I feel like I have to acknowledge that aspect of it.
Right.
You can't fully escape that. But I think having him kind of be removed and still hating his job ties in better to the first three.
Yes. Yeah. And, again, this was yet another, we're doing this to retain the rights situation, which I guess we like very much breezed over up top because it kind of cracks me up that it's always Hellraiser and Children of the Corn sequel that they had to blast out at the same time. So that was in the same contract or in the same deal that they made. So
well, it's all just like
can't wait to get to those.
Yeah, and this is all very interesting, and just in terms of just the politics behind the scenes of how this stuff gets made. In that, so he's getting all these notes from all these different executives or whatever, but they're still in like $300,000 budget. Like this weird thing of like, let's pay a bunch of attention to it, but pay no attention to it. And I've certainly been on jobs like that where it's like there's no budget, but you're getting all kinds of feedback for some reason.
Right. Yeah.
From a bunch of different voices. That's just the movie business is not glamorous. It is very much not. It's
extremely frustrating.
Yeah. It does feel nice to, and again, this kind of comes from knowing the behind the scenes stuff, but it's nice that someone cares. And I don't want to I don't want to dog like Rick Boda in this. We could save some of this more for the wrap up, but it's like, he was under this pressure of like, take this script and shove Hellraiser into it. But someone that could from the ground up be like, this is the vision of the movie of this franchise that I'm a fan of and that I want to see. It's not, I'm trying to put, I mean, there's clearly like stuff he likes and wants to do that he put in there.
As it should be.
But it is like, I do want to make a Hellraiser movie. I don't want to just upend everything about it to show everyone how smart and clever I am. I just want to make a Hellraiser movie that's nasty.
And he did it.
You totally did it. It was disgusting.
Right. Yes. All right, everyone. Well, we've got one left. Light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, just I wanted to shout out real quick. Get some people commenting on reaching out on YouTube saying hello. So I just want to shout out Lee, William, and Patrick. Thanks for listening. And I'm glad you're enjoying you're somehow enjoying Hellraiser.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take the positive comments wherever. Yeah, and if any of our other listeners, why not give us one of those 5-star reviews somewhere? Not 4-star, not 3-star, just
somewhere. On Yelp,
somewhere.
maybe.
Wherever you're listening. What do they say? Wherever you get your podcast or whatever.
Sure.
We're nearing the end of this. We've got one more. We've got the remake or the reboot or whatever you want to call it. I know a lot of people have been excited for this one. I'm excited to rewatch it. I've only watched it the day it came out. I went home from work early at like noon and watched it at like 1 o'clock with the blinds pulled because I was so excited for it. But I'm very excited to get into this one and just sort of put a nice bow on this puzzle box and move on to something else at this point. And over on our Patreon, people have been enjoying us. This month, we talked about other Clive Barker films, Rawhead Rex, which is a big-time crowd pleaser, Quicksilver Highway, and Yattering and Jack. Those other two, maybe not so much as such, but Rawhead, definitely worth taking a gander at. On Patreon, last 3 months or so, we've been doing other Clive Barker-related films, if you're at all curious, and if you want to go further down the rabbit hole of his work with us. So next week we'll be talking about Hellraiser 2022. It is on Hulu, so give that a gander and listen to us next week. But until then, you can find us on Instagram at This May Hurt a Bit Pod, Hurt a Bit Pod on YouTube, and you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. So next week, let's round out this Hellraiser with us. All right, good night.
Good night.
This has been a Caretaker Press production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review over on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.